This is a big news story developing today. Happening soon in Los Angeles, District Attorney George Gascón scheduled to hold a news conference to announce his decision. What is he going to talk about? That's what everybody wants to know. A lot of people wondering if he will order a possible resentencing of Erik and Lyle Menendez, the brothers convicted of killing their parents, Jose and Kitty Menendez. That highly publicized case gripped the nation for decades, and most recently with a documentary and a Netflix series. The two currently serving 2 consecutive life prison terms without parole. So CBS News legal contributor Jessica Levinson joins us to break this down. Jessica, we kind of thought this would happen by the end of the week. It's Thursday. We may have a decision. The argument is that evidence in that retrial, the first retrial, was not allowed in, and that really made it so that the guys couldn't get a manslaughter conviction, which would have meant they'd get out earlier. Could we actually see a manslaughter sentencing happen and the brothers walking free?
Not today. So we could see the district attorney who is up for re-election, and we will be voting, if we haven't already, in less than 2 weeks. We could see him say, I am going to recommend resentencing. Read, for the reasons that you just talked about, because there's evidence that wasn't presented at trial and some new evidence that might have changed the jury's verdict, at least for Jose. Maybe not for Kitty, where I think the first-degree murder conviction, frankly, still would stand, but at least for Jose, that would have been brought down to manslaughter. But then a judge has to bless that. So there's a real question of timing here. And the reason I brought up the election is because we now, not just when it comes to the national level, but also here in this local race, have an overlay of legal decisions and the electoral calendar as well.
All right, so recommend could happen today if that happens, but it's not just necessarily a golden key that unlocks the prison gate, so to speak. So give us some scenarios. What if the brothers are granted this motion? What's next?
Exactly. So the press conference is not the filing of the motion. So assuming that the motion is ready to go, it's filed in court. At that point, the judge is going to spend some time to look at the evidence. And while there's always more complexity here, the basic roots are a judge says to the district attorney, I agree with you, and there is a resentencing. And at that point, you could see that the brothers are allowed to say, time served. You've already given back. You've already been punished. You could also see a judge say, I'm not with you. I think, and then there's a variety of different scenarios. It could be, I agree with the consecutive life in prison sentences, or I think something somewhere in the middle would be more appropriate.
So talk to me about the timeline of this, and you do mention the re-election and what's going on there. Could this conversation be going on past the election? What do you see by way of a timeline?
So what we're looking at here is, it's interesting because the DA had to respond within about a month by the end of November. He's decided now to respond earlier. And the question, I think, really in terms of whether or not the district attorney's suggestion could be binding is whether or not a judge would say yes or no before we might have elected a new DA. Now, in the polls in Los Angeles, and I don't expect everybody to track this constantly, but George Gascón, the current DA, is significantly behind. So what we need to look for is whether or not a judge schedules a hearing and makes a decision before potentially Nathan Hochman, who at this point is very ahead in the polls, would be able to make his own suggestion to the judge. Once the judge says thumbs up or thumbs down, that would be binding. It would be very hard for, if there's a changeover in the DA's office, for that to be undone. In terms of timing, it's really up to a judge to decide when these hearing dates would be set and how quickly they want to look at the evidence.
I got a term for you. It's called YouTube rabbit hole. I have gone down that rabbit hole many a night looking at so many things, not the least of which Gascón saying in recent days that he thinks that the Menendez brothers should have been sentenced to manslaughter. That is a little bit of a hint of what could come. But it's so great to talk to you to understand the process here and that this is not necessarily a slam dunk, no matter what we hear today about 1:30 Pacific time. Jessica, thank you so much. Always a pleasure talking to you.